Today is a product of pure frustration, which could probably describe every daily cancellation. It could really describe every moment of every show. I'm going to be canceling two of the most inane, incoherent, irrelevant, misleading talking points that always come up with any high-profile police shooting. And we've mentioned these in the past, but I think it's time that we really focus on them for a moment at least. These are, and they've especially reached fever pitches in response to the Ma'Khia Bryant incident. These are talking points that reveal a fundamental misunderstanding of the law, of the real world, and they are these. Number one, why can't the cops just shoot the person in the leg? And there's been a lot of that. Number two, why did fill in the blank black suspect get shot if Dylan Roof, the Charleston church shooter, was taken alive? Must be racism. Right? Those are the two. You've seen these talking points a lot. Hear them all the time. So let's take these one at a time, starting with number one. Why can't the cops shoot in the leg? Well, as it happens, the police chief in Columbus, Ohio, was asked this very question by a member of the media. And he provided the answer, I think. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Couldn't he have just shot her in the leg so she dropped? Couldn't he have shot her in the arm, something like that?
Right, one of the difficult things with that is when you're trying, we don't train to shoot the leg because that's a small target. We train to shoot center mass. What is available to stop that threat? There was a threat going on, a deadly force threat that was going on, so the officer is trained to shoot center mass, the largest part of a body that is available to them. When you try to start shooting legs or arms, rounds miss, and then they continue on, and there are people behind that could be in danger that are not committing anything. So we try and minimize any danger to anyone else if we have to use our firearm.
So I think he successfully answers that question, and it should be enough for anyone who is seriously confused about it. I think the answer you just heard there is good enough. But to emphasize his point, let me add that though I am not a law enforcement officer, I do realize one fundamental fact. We are not living in a John Wick movie. Okay? In the real world, John Wick doesn't exist. And the guy who plays him, Keanu Reeves, is a 56-year-old dude who probably can't do 12 push-ups and certainly can't single-handedly dispatch a whole room full of mob hitmen. Okay, that in the real world, that doesn't happen. If we lived in a movie, then sure, you'd simply, if you're the cop, you'd shoot the knife or whatever weapon out of the perp's hand, maybe deliver a couple of karate chops or roundhouse kicks. The suspect is knocked unconscious just for long enough to put them in cuffs, and everyone gets out alive. Though though maybe the badass, tough as nails cop gets chewed out by the police captain, for showboating, as always. That's the way it goes in film. And the great thing about film is that everything is neat and it follows a certain structure. And there's no random misery and death. There might be misery and death, but it serves the purpose of the story. And everything usually works out okay in the end. That's the way it goes in movies. Again, that's not reality. Reality is messy. Cops live in messy all day. There's no script. You have to make quick decisions. And you make the decision that has the highest probability of bringing about the least horrible outcome. You also can't guarantee that the bullet is always going to go where you want it to go. If you shoot for a hand, which is a small, fast-moving target, you'll probably miss, and you'll hit whatever or whoever is on the other side of that hand. And in this case, you would have been hitting the very person you were trying to save. If you shoot for the leg, again, a smaller, fast-moving target, there's a good chance you'll miss. And then that means that the dangerous armed assailant will succeed in causing whatever harm they were trying to cause to whoever they were trying to cause it to. Also, even if you hit the person in the leg, again, because this isn't a movie, they aren't going to automatically go down. Right? They're not going to automatically fall to their knees and start shaking their fists and saying, foiled again. No. They'll probably still be moving, and there's no reason why, in this case in particular, she couldn't have finished the movement. I mean, she had her hand back like this with a knife in it. Even if you shot her in the leg, that's not going to stop her from doing this and stabbing somebody. She could stab multiple times after getting shot in the leg. Remember, in the real world, all you can do is choose the least horrible outcome. In this case, the most horrible outcome in the Bryant case is that the assailant stabs an unarmed girl to death right in front of you. That is the most horrible outcome from the perspective of a police officer. You want to avoid that. The least horrible is that you stop the assailant by the quickest and most high percentage method available. Shooting center mass right in the chest it's not so that you'll have the highest chance of killing them. It's so you'll have the highest chance of stopping them from doing what they're doing. Sadly, that often means killing them. That's not the point. The point is to stop them. Again, least horrible. Messy situation. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it does. All you really have to do here to understand why it has to be this way is put yourself in the shoes of the girl who is about to get stabbed. Okay? And pause the tape right there and imagine this. You're pinned against a car. Someone has a butcher knife. They have their arm all the way back, winding up, with ready to thrust that blade into your body. If it hits you in the heart, you're dead. If she gets you in the gut, you might be dead, or you might live with internal organ damage or worse. If she gets you in the face, you could be dead, you could be blind, you could be horribly disfigured. You see a police officer right behind her. He has his gun out. What do you want him to do in that situation? What do you want him to do right then and there? Do you want him to choose a less effective option to prevent you from being butchered in hopes of also preserving the life of the person trying to butcher you? Or do you want him to just stop her? Now, you probably, if you notice this and you were cognizant of it, you'd probably be shooting. Shoot her! Shoot her! You want her to? She's about to stab you. You want this to be? You don't want to give your life so that for the sake of your assailant not being shot when they're trying to stab you. Well, what would we all really want in that situation? If we could have anything, we would want John Wick to be there, or Superman, or Spider-Man who can shoot his webs and put an end to it. We'd want that, but we can't have that. And so then what we're going to have is a cop in the real world, and that means least horrible outcome, they shoot. That's the first talking about. The second is this. What about Dylan Roof? He was taken alive. They bought him Burger King. How scandalous is that? Well, this one is really simple. It's not even complex and messy like the first one was. It's really easy. Dylan Roof did a horrific thing and was sentenced to death for it. He was taken alive because he surrendered peacefully. The only way to not take him alive would have been to execute him on the spot while he is clearly and unambiguously surrendering. Now, you might say that cops have done that before on rare occasion, like they did to Daniel Shaver. Yeah, and they have on rare occasion. That's bad, okay? We don't want them to do that. In almost every case, they don't do that, and it's good that they don't do that. If Dylan Roof had drawn up on the cops, they would have shot him dead in a second, and nobody would care without any hesitation. If Dylan Roof had wrestled the cops and run away and reached into his car, they would have shot him dead right then and there. Again, nobody would protest or care. But he didn't do any of that. And that's why he survived, so that he could be sentenced to death. Almost every black and white suspect who surrenders peacefully makes it out alive. And that's how. In the few exceptions where they surrender peacefully and are still killed, usually the cop is prosecuted. So there's no issue here. Why was Dylan Roof given Burger King? Well, because we have to feed bad guys in custody. It's a law. Starve him, refuse him food and water, and that's a good way of making sure the bad guy walks free. The Beltway snipers, two black people, serial killers who terrorized the Baltimore, D.C. area for weeks, and I remember this well, were taken alive and given food while in custody. Why? Because they surrendered peacefully. They didn't give the cops a reason to shoot them. Give the cops a valid reason to shoot you, and they might. So don't do that. It's really not hard. It's not hard to refrain from attacking the cops or fighting them or trying to kill them or trying to kill other people in front of them. That's not a hard thing. That's not a high bar to get over. It's not an unreasonable demand, is it? It's not an infringement. It's a very low bar. Don't fight the cops. Don't try to kill them. Don't try to kill anybody in front of the cops. Don't try to kill anybody anytime, even if the cops aren't there. You know, that's the most ideal scenario. And just follow those basic rules of life, and you're not guaranteed success and happiness, but at the very least, you're probably not going to get shot by the cops. Very, very low bar. If you can't clear that very, very, very low bar, you might get shot. Such is life, and such is death. And that's the reality. Those who don't understand it or would deny it are, you guessed it, canceled. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with all your friends.